As we close in on the month of March, the bubble becomes a main topic of conversation, and certainly that is the case in the SEC. 11, 12, maybe 13. How many teams does the SEC get into the NCAA tournament, and how much does the bubble impact? It'll impact it greatly. We're going to talk about that, guys. I'm Chris Phillips. He is lead basketball analyst here at SEC Unfiltered. Dave Shumate joining me once again. Guys, before we get going, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast or get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get started with $150 in bonus bets today. As March Madness quickly approaches, the bubble is a main topic of conversation. Teams like Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, and Oklahoma all fighting for their postseason lives over the next month or so, hoping to hear their name called and see themselves in the field when the NCAA tournament field is officially announced. Again, we are here talking the landscape of the bubble, and realistically, how many teams is the SEC going to get in the tournament? How much the bubble is going to impact that, guys. Once again, I am Chris Phillips. Joining me, helping us break it all down, lead basketball analyst here at SEC Unfiltered, Dave Shumate joins you once again. Dave, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time. Excited to talk the bubble because you and I were talking off air. There's maybe some folks out there that are a little bit overzealous. The SEC has obviously been the creme de la creme in college basketball this season, but you know, there were conversations at one point, Dave, 13. I think I saw 14 at one time. I'm excited to allow you to kind of give some perspective because I think realistically, when you look at it, and it's going to play itself out on the floor, but that number may be a little bit less. But there's some teams with some compelling arguments in this group that we just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 9 teams we feel pretty good about getting into the NCAA tournament. Our buddy JVR Bracketology will usually put a lockout when he feels like a team's done enough. And I saw he did that the other day with, who was it, Mississippi State. I think they're winning in Oxford, kind of solidified that. But I think we got 9. And we got Auburn, Alabama, Florida, A&M, Missouri, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Are 9 teams. Some have a little more work to do, but I feel like we'd be very shocked if they just totally collapsed on the stretch. Then I think we got 2 teams in LSU and South Carolina that we're pretty confident, unless they go on some crazy run in Nashville in the SEC tournament, are going to be staying at home watching the NCAA tournament with us. But I think there's 5 teams that are going to determine, is this league going to get 13 like some say, or is it going to get closer to 11 or 12 like I think it is? And those teams, I think Vanderbilt, which I'm leaning closer and closer each week, putting them in the bunch of going to be in the tournament. Texas getting closer and closer to that. I think there's a little bit of a gap. And then we start having discussions. Arkansas coming on here after their wins at Texas and at Kentucky have got them back into that conversation. Then we got 2 teams that I've tweeted about constantly since Saturday night that I think are not going to make the tournament. I'm very confident. Georgia sitting at 4-9 in league play, 16-10 overall, and I think Oklahoma, which is kind of wild to people because they were one of 3 teams with Florida and Tennessee. It came into league play undefeated, but now they're 3-9 in league play, 16-9 overall. I think 50. What I say they are? They were 52nd in net rankings right now. I mean, you got at least the goal. You got to get to 7 conference wins. Oklahoma's at 3, and Georgia's at 4. Maybe Georgia's going to get to 8 because the non-conference slate was not awesome. But I think that's kind of where we're dissecting it. I think realistically, we're going to be in that 11-12 range. I think we easily get 2 out of those 5 in. It's just kind of Arkansas is kind of that team to keep an eye on. Could they be that 3rd out of the group of 5 to give the SEC ultimately 12? I feel safe in saying Vanderbilt and Texas are probably going to get there. I feel probably just as confident that Oklahoma and Oklahoma and Georgia right now do not make it.
Yeah, you mentioned that group of 5, Dave. Let's go through KenPom. Texas right now is at number 35. Arkansas is at 39. Vanderbilt is at 41. And you got Georgia and Oklahoma, like you mentioned, 43 and 44. So, I mean, obviously there's work to be done down the stretch for all of these. I would agree with you, though. It does feel like, and I mean, gosh, you watch them on the floor, Oklahoma and Georgia, especially Oklahoma, they just feel like they're just completely lost.
Just hit a wall. And it's
just completely hit a wall. Georgia, kind of same thing. Again, we saw them in person a few weeks ago and didn't look great. Started out hot in conference play, kind of fizzled out, obviously. I think when you look at the quality of wins, some of the signature wins Vandy has had, I think to your point, I feel pretty confident the Doors are going to make it. And then Texas, Arkansas, to your point, is the most intriguing. I think they were completely dead a few weeks ago, and then that big win, John Calipari going to Lexington, beating Kentucky. It's like kind of re-energized their season. It's almost crazy to think that they could get in the postseason, but here we are. They sit with a 4-8 conference record. So,
and the goal to be for everybody, kind of net rankings is what the committee kind of goes off of. It. Yeah. We saw them introduce their top 16 seeds heading in on Saturday around 11:30. They did, so we saw that. But where teams stand right now, Georgia sitting at 39. Remember, you want to be kind of in the top 40. Vandy just outside the top 41. Arkansas right behind them at 42. And this is kind of where it starts to dip. I mean, you got Oklahoma there at 52nd. And then I said, and Georgia sitting there at 39th right there. And, I mean, that's really, for the most part, that's it. I mean, that's where you kind of got to be. So Georgia's probably in a better spot than Oklahoma. But at some point, you just have to start going to collect wins. And then, Texas is in the best shape. Texas is up right now at 32nd. So Texas is in the best shape from a net ranking standpoint, which the committee uses, followed by Vanderbilt. And Georgia's in much better shape than Oklahoma to probably get out of this hole. But then we start looking at schedules, CP. That's the next thing we got to talk about. Is these games, when these teams start playing each other, they're going to be so important. They're going to be as important as ever.
Dave, it kind of sounds like, to your point, the schedules are important. You gotta rack up wins, right? You can talk about the analytics and the KenPom and the net, but you got to go win games, bottom line. And I would agree with you. I think getting to 7 conference wins is kind of the magic number. 8 certainly, I think, is going to lock you in. 6 is going to get dicey. 6 is going to get really dicey. Yeah, I think you're probably going to miss it as well. So it sounds like, Dave, for you, Georgia and Oklahoma, really confident they're out. Vandy and Texas, pretty confident they're in. So I guess, would you say, is Arkansas really the only kind of mystery in your mind at this point?
That's kind of where I'm at right now. I think Arkansas is that team that's going to determine if the SEC gets 11 or 12. And Arkansas would be that 12th team, in my opinion. What do they got left right now? Tomorrow night at Auburn. Well, I mean, odds are they're probably beating KenPom. I'm looking at it right now. It gives them a 6% chance of winning that game. So I don't think they're going to win that. Missouri at home on Saturday, massive opportunity. Texas at home.
How about that stretch, Dave? Texas at South Carolina at Vandy. 2 of those 3, obviously, they're kind of fighting on the bubble with. And, I mean, a South Carolina game that you just have to have. You'll have to have that.
Oh, no, you'll have to win that. And, again, they need 3. I think they need 3 wins here. What are their best opportunities to probably get those wins if you're an Arkansas fan? But probably you need to at least split. You can't lose both to Missouri and Texas at home. I'll put Arkansas will be in the same boat. If we're talking – February 27th morning, the Wednesday after that Texas game at home, and they're 0-3, and they've lost to Auburn, Missouri, and Texas to follow that up for 4 straight losses. Yeah, they'll be out at that point. They have to get one of those home wins. You'd prefer both. Go handle business at South Carolina. That loss could hurt you. And then you get Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt, which won't be easy, and at Mississippi State. It wouldn't shock me. Can they win 3 more games? Yes. Do I lean it right now? Whew, man. Yeah. You'd have to tell me what is happening on that morning of February 27th. They have to get one of these wins at home. Bare minimum have to get one of them against Missouri or Texas coming up.
Yeah, they're going to have to score some wins for sure, stack some wins, get some signature wins. I mean, I think the game against Texas, you could argue, is a bit of a must-win. And we know the rivalry there and the hatred of the Texas Longhorns in Fayetteville, so that one will be high intensity for sure down the stretch. Dave, of these teams on the bubble, the group of 5 we mentioned, I'm assuming Georgia and Oklahoma will not be your answer because, again, you don't think they're going to make the tournament. My question simply was going to be this, Dave, just for funsies, and I said funsies for some reason, but for fun, for fun, the team that's on the bubble that you think, if they can lock in their spot, can make the deepest run in March.
Good question. So what bubble team you think could go maybe get to that second weekend and then
maybe Sweet 16, dare I say Elite 8. Nothing crazy, but further than expected.
I'll go Vanderbilt because I think Mark Byington does a really good job of having a good game plan offensively and defensively on both sides of the floor, coming up with the game. They got enough guys. They can get hot. We've seen that. They got enough guys. They got some pure shooters out there. I mean, We've seen what Jason Edwards did last Saturday against Tennessee, keeping them slowly in it. And you got an experienced guy like AJ Hogard, who came from Michigan State, played in a bunch of tournament games with Tom Izzo. Tyler Nickel can shoot. I mean, the McDonald Gatorade Player of the Year from Tennessee, he's a freshman on that team. Tyler Tanner can get going. We've seen it with Jalen Carey. They got a bunch of different guys that understand their roles. I'd lean Vanderbilt. I think Texas is just a little bit too one-dimensional and relies too much on Trey Johnson. Where you get a good staff will come up and be like, hey, man, let's kind of go blow up these ball screens and like double him and force someone else to go beat us. Arthur Kaluma being out, one of their other players. I think right now, I think it's Vanderbilt, and I probably don't even think it's that close, honestly. Maybe next would be Arkansas, then obviously shake it out. I mean, how I would rate the bubble right now in the SEC: Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma.
Kind of like the standings. It's essentially. Yeah, which is the exact
same. Some people may put Arkansas over Texas because they have the head-to-head, but I think Texas, from a net ranking standpoint, is in just a little bit better shape than Arkansas is from that perspective right now.
Dave, final thing, and we'll close it up here. And we're ways away. We'll talk about this, obviously, when you and I preview the entire week. Do you think – you mentioned you got to get to 7 conference wins. If you're at 6, do you think a few wins in Nashville – could help some of these bubble teams, or do you think it's something where is the committee going to be like, nope, you had 6, that it's unless you win the whole thing, or maybe you make it to the championship game? Like, do you think at that point will it be too little too late for these bubble teams?
I mean, no, I think some teams could go make some headway in Nashville for sure this year. I mean, we for 2 different reasons why. I mean, again, we've seen the committee doesn't really care what you do in your conference tournaments if you've already locked in a bid. I mean, again, we saw it from Auburn last year. Auburn won 3 quad 1 games in a row to win the SEC tournament in Nashville last year. Didn't move a seed line, stayed at the 4 line. You just don't really move your seed up. You can play your way in or out. Let's be honest, CP, there's going to be a lot of quad 1 neutral court opportunities to go get those wins in Nashville this week. So certainly, I do think if a team maybe like Arkansas, maybe a Georgia gets to the semis on Saturday after winning. Because remember, Sad Wednesday now is 4 games with the additions of 2 teams now, with obviously Texas and Oklahoma coming in. So there's going to be opportunities. So, yes, I think somebody could do that. You look at teams like Arkansas, Texas, and Georgia kind of being like that. I think Vanderbilt is going to be in the tournament by the time we get to Nashville. But, yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think teams could play themselves. And my second point, the bubble is really soft this year. It's a bad bubble. Talking to JBR Bracketology, I get him on once a week. The bubble is really bad, and he even brought it up on the segment last week. 6-12, maybe, depending on what some other conferences do, is because the bubble is so bad. I mean, Arkansas and Texas are kind of in these conversations of being in the tournament right now, like last 4 in, first 4 out, playing in Dayton in the first round. So, I mean, again, to your point, yes, I think some of those teams, like I just mentioned, could easily play themselves in with the opportunities you'll have to pick up big wins. And like I've said, CP, I think some of these teams who are going to have, I mean, what if Auburn, Alabama, or Auburn and Florida, or somebody already has the 1 seeds wrapped up going to Nashville? That's legitimate, because I think if Alabama goes 4-2 down the stretch in this 6, yeah, they're not going to win the regular season, but I think they'll lock up a 1 seed. These minute restrictions, are you really going to go all out, like in an under 8-minute or 12 timeout, like you normally would in a game or in the tournament? Maybe you just save some minutes there. You get some guys out. I don't know how all in some of these other teams are, or these top teams that'll be locked up won't be. Because, again, why would you? Your seed line can't move.
So, guys, let us know your thoughts. The bubble going to be a topic of conversation over the next few weeks as we get closer and closer to the NCAA tournament. Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma. How many of those 5 will make it? How many will punch their ticket? And which ones do you think they will be? Guys, once again, we appreciate you all tuning in. Before we get out of here, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because, of course, as always, we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets in a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Once again, the bubble, a big topic of conversation as we prepare to enter the month of March. Who's in? Who's out? Let the debate rage on. Guys, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, you can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For lead basketball analyst Dave Shumate, I am Chris Phillips. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.